What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode review for Higurashi When They Cry Go. This is episode 23.
Yes.
With me, as always, I have Blue Spade.
Before we start, it's like I think a couple days ago we saw someone tweet. I think it's from Cars or at Karoshi Myriad. Yeah, this person often tweets out like Type Moon visual novel like stuff from time to time, and he mentions, I don't know if it's he or she, but he mentions that that there's supposedly going to be 30 episodes for Higurashi based off of an ATX programming schedule. If nobody knows what ATX is, it's actually a Japanese network that airs anime shows from time to time. So this person, like, literally at first we thought it was like an error on their part, but we literally see an entire listing that lists Higurashi Go with up to 30 episodes, like probably by, I think, up until the end of April-ish or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I've just been going by the episode count they have up on websites like My Anime List, where it says it's going to be 24 episodes, but judging by the pacing of this episode, I do believe there's probably going to be more than that. I don't know if it will be 30. I guess 30, because it's like, this is still pretty slow paced, it seems. Like, I mean, because at this point, if there are really going to be, like, this is, 2 more episodes left, including this one, you would think that they would be headed toward the climax of the series, and that things would be, ramping up with the plot, but that's not really what happened in this episode, so it doesn't really seem like that they're getting close to the end of the series yet. So it's hard for me to believe they're going to end this in the next episode, just judging by the way this episode played out.
Yeah, at first I thought they were going to head back into the climax. Like, we're at was episode 20.
Yeah, and that's what the last episode, like the ending of the last episode, at least seemed to imply, because I mean, it seemed like they were setting up for that, but that's not what happens in this one.
Yeah, I mean, well, the episode starts off like back, I guess, like everyone playing their usual club games, and then of course I guess Sadako in a way cheating, because she knows like how to play the game as such, but
she cheats because she keeps resetting, or she keeps going, and it also led me to wonder, like, is she dying every time, or is she just literally every time she snaps her fingers, does it just reset? Is it that easy for her to just like reset the timeline?
Yeah, it makes me think if she's gotten like some kind of other power that she can just immediately rewind time by just snapping her fingers, but it doesn't really confirm.
Every other time we saw her snap her fingers in the previous episode, she was about to die.
Yeah,
in this one she just snaps her fingers. So I mean, it could be that she killed herself off screen, but
honestly, I don't know if she's really controlling what part of the timeline she's replaying or something like that. But it's just, I don't know. It's unknown, like, how she was even really doing that, or maybe maybe I'm just under the impression she just memorized, like, the card placement of the game she was playing.
Yeah, you would if because she kept resetting, so she would know.
Yeah.
The card place of each card.
Yeah,
so,
but however, of course, like, she eventually just does go back into that whole like dimensional plane with feathering. However, like, I mean, we find that of course, like, Sadako does finally ask what her name is, but of course, like, feathering mentions that I don't have a name. You can just call me whatever you want, and then, like, Sadako just basically accidentally just names her just by I don't know, just like stuttering or whatever she was doing, and then feathering supposedly just decides on the name Yua or Iwa. I don't know how the fuck it's pronounced.
Yeah. I mean, this is a prelude to Umineko, and they didn't really call her feathering except for in Umineko. So it could be maybe a name that was given to her possibly by Burn Castell, maybe, but I mean, everybody refers to her in Umineko by feathering, so I'm not exactly sure. I just don't know if Ryokishi is just messing with us, because when I saw that, I was like, why is she just not called Featherine? Like, why are we trying to mess around and act like that's not who she is? Like, I don't know. I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me, like, why she's just not called that, because as far as I know, that's the name she's known by, unless there's something I don't know that might happen to be the reason why she's referred to as Featherine in Omeneko and she's not being referred to by that here. But it's just kind of weird to me as someone who's read Omeneko that she's not, the character who looks identical to Featherine is not being called that. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, but of course Sadako elaborates all the different experiences of her replaying the different loops, and she's pretty much caught on with at least that a handful of people, particularly like Keiichi and Rena, like remembering several different loops that they've lived before. There was one scene like in which Keiichi just breaks down crying, remembering the time when he just when he killed like Rena and Mio, and just pretty much bashing him in the head with a baseball bat. That infamous scene at at the beginning of the series where you see him like beating him to death with a bat, and he just suddenly just remembers it. And then I think Featherine and Sadako talk about that sort of ability, saying that a person that has a close connection with a looper can somehow remember stuff from other loops from prior events, I guess.
Yeah. So I guess, to be fair, this isn't necessarily new when we see it happen in GO, because Keiichi has in the original series like remembered certain events, but so yeah, that's not so we kind of sort of get an explanation for it.
Yeah. I mean, I've wondered like what what exactly is the point of all of this, because I thought we were going to get into the finale or the whole climax of the whole Rika Sadako confrontation, but the real meat of this episode happens with Sadako's uncle Teppei, which comes out of nowhere. And what we see here is like Teppei is like waking up from different experiences or different events where he ends up dying, and like the first death, like he just dies from probably some drug overabuse at one point, and then he dies like by these from these loan sharks, and then he just wakes up again, and then we just see him just throughout the entire episode just minding his own business, just just I don't know, going through what he's trying to do. Like, he's still taking medications, like he gambles at a pachinko place, and then at one point he sees like a father and a daughter hanging out with each other at that pachinko place, and then you start to think he's thinking about his about him wanting to be with, I wouldn't say like him wanting to be with Sadako, but he's like thinking about it, I guess. And then one of the prizes he ends up getting is I guess a box of mini donuts, and then he eventually goes back to Hinamizawa, and then goes back to the same household where he used to live at, but unfortunately he's locked out of that place. So he walks around, and then he eventually just runs into Sadako, which Sadako just of course at first sight of him ends up panicking because for prior experiences with him. But we see him instead of him just trying being so abusive to her, he starts warming up to her, giving her the box of mini donuts that he won at the pachinko place, and then saying that he likes to spend more time with her if she'll allow it.
It was weird. He's kind of just become a completely different character from what we know. I mean, we have seen in the previous episodes where characters would remember certain things from other timelines. Like Keiichi would experience regret over what he did. So I guess you could say that because of him, I guess supposedly experienced the memories of other fragments where he was abusive, that it led him to eventually regret his actions in this timeline. So now he's trying to make trying to, I guess, be different towards Sadako, but it is still hard to believe because he just kind of turns into a completely different character. I mean, it's just weird, after what we know about him, and he's just kind of a sort of like trying to be a good person.
Yeah,
now.
it's like and then in the next scene, like Sadako gets blocked by the by these like gang of like hoodlums, like blocking your path, and then Teppei just steps in and tries to help her out, but of course he gets beaten down trying to do so, and then of course the police end up helping out, and then of course he gets questioned as about what happened, and then he gets let off the hook after several witnesses pretty much testify saying that he was trying to save Sadako. And
yeah, I mean, we see Oishi come in, and Oishi apparently doesn't seem to believe that Teppei is a good person. He still is suspicious of him and thinks that he's abusive. But yeah, so I mean, he gets interviewed, and then he gets out, and then he of course runs into Sadako again.
And he pretty much tells her about like what came about his change of heart, like saying he mentioned that that he had several bad dreams or something like that, and then like he ended up dying alone at that old apartment he used to stay at. And then I would assume this pretty much like gives Sadako a hint that he's also remembering several different loops from the past. So I don't. Yeah, it's possible like she's something's going to come out of it, but I don't know. But it just seemed like most of this episode was mostly showing Teppei's like attempts to make amends with Sadako, and like
he tries to convince her to give him a second chance and holds out his hand to her, but of course she reacts whenever she thinks that he's going to touch her because she just remembers him beating her up. So she just recoils, and that kind of gives him the impression that she's not ready to try to forgive him yet. So then he just sort of walks off, and that's pretty much how the episode ends, which I was kind of shocked by. I was like, that's it, like that's the whole episode. So yeah, it's definitely a weird direction it's going, but I think I kind of have a theory as to what's going on. It hasn't been explicitly stated yet, but I think that we're experiencing some of the previous arcs we've seen in the first half of the series from Sadako's point of view. I feel like this is possibly the I forget what the arc is called, but the arc
it was called the
curse killing. I think it was curse killing arc. It is the one where we find out that of course that Sadako's uncle is abusing her. But in Go it's Damashi, so it's the I think it was Tatsu Damashi or something like that. So
Tarari Damashi Hen Sonogi.
Yeah, I think it's so I think this is the arc that we saw earlier, but we're experiencing from Sadako's point of view, and we're still under the impression that this was the same like arc from the original series when it might not have been. Maybe this was her uncle was this person when we saw it in the beginning of the series in this arc, but we didn't really know that.
Well, yeah, if we remember during that arc, we only saw it mostly in Keiichi and Rika's perspective, and we never saw of what was happening with Sadako. And if we remember, like we never see signs of any physical abuse on her. Like she just acted like it was being like abused.
Yeah, this kind of backs that up, I think, if her uncle is not the same person and if he's not abusing her.
Yeah, and most of that arc was just focused on Keiichi and the others going to the child welfare service, like talking about like how Teppei is abusing Sadako and such. But it seems to back up that fact that about why the child welfare service is not really believing that kind of story, and trying to pretty much brush it aside. It's just because they believe that that Teppei was not as bad as they believed him to be.
Yeah. I think what's going to happen if there is going to be 10 more episodes is that we're going to see the other arcs we saw in the beginning of the series from Sadako's point of view, and it's going to give more context as to what happened.
Yeah, I mean, but still, I don't know if it's really even necessary for them to do that. I mean, but as for this arc,
I mean, there are a lot of questions with some of the, what happened at the specifically like at the end of the those arcs. I don't think they're going to go through the entire arc. I think we might just get, the important points that we were having questions about. They might cover that. So I think that's probably what's going to happen.
I mean,
and it also gives more meaning to the whole deceiving thing too. If her uncle really is not, actually abusing her, it kind of means we were tricked into thinking that was the case. So it kind of makes the deceiving thing more, more prominent. I think.
And it also makes it more depressing knowing about what's going to happen, because if we remember, Keiichi ends up killing Teppei with, by pretty much bludgeoning him with a baseball bat at the end of that arc.
And we're not entirely sure if that was, I'm also kind of curious as to what happened there too. Like, was he delusional during that time, or did Sadako do something to him, like to make him do that? If it was him who actually tried to kill him.
I mean, if we remember, I think she has access to.
She has access to the vials of. I think the scientific name is like H173 or something. Is the Hinamizawa syndrome. So yeah, she could, it's kind of what I thought. I think she's probably going to be injecting certain people with those. To make them do things.
It just.
I mean, because that would explain Oishi's actions for sure at the end of that arc.
Yeah, and it just makes Sadako into a more despicable character at this point, because it's just more or less that she cares more about her wanting Rika to stay in Hinamizawa, and she's like,
it's like she said at the end of the last episode, she sees this as like a game, like this is a game to her.
Yeah,
she's trying to beat Rika at her own game.
Yeah, and even that one moment, in which supposedly that Teppei is trying to warm up to her and try to make amends. It's like she's really just tossing that aside, just for her, just for her obsessive jealousy towards Rika.
Yeah, she doesn't even care that her uncle is now trying to make amends with her. She's more obsessed with just trying to, get at Rika essentially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it was okay, but I don't know. I don't know where they're going to end up going with this. Assuming if this is going to be at least 30 episodes, it's probably they're just going to end up replaying all the previous arcs we've seen before under, in Sadako's perspective of what she.
And this is all still the village destroying.
Yeah,
the village destroying arc.
It's like what. Yeah, this was the sixth.
This is part? next episode is going to be part 7.
Yeah, this is the longest.
So they're still going with.
Yeah, this is the longest story arc that we've seen. Since I guess throughout the entire Higurashi series. I can't remember most other parts have gone long into at least 4, mostly 4, but at least.
I wonder if the other 10 episodes is also going to encompass the the village destroying arc, or if this is just going to be a certain set of episodes. I'm kind of wondering about that.
Yeah, I don't know how how they're gonna end up adapting the rest of the story, because honestly, like I said, I thought they were gonna already go back to the climax of the storyline based on what we already know so far, but.
Yeah, I wonder if they're going to go back to that scene, or that we're just going to be left hanging, and I don't know.
I feel like
the scene where she just.
I feel like if the 30 episode count is true, then we're more than likely going to be left hanging until then.
Yeah, most likely. But I honestly, in a way, I feel like this is kind of a good idea. So we get some more explanation as to what exactly happened with some of those arcs in particular.
Yeah.
And we actually get to know what Sadako was doing during that time, because she was pretty suspicious throughout the first half, just based on the way she was acting.
Mm-hmm.
But now we'll actually get to see what exactly she did to cause the things that happened, those arcs to happen.
Yeah, she deliberately caused a lot of the bad stuff to happen. Despite some of the changes that were happening at the time, that we thought were happening at the time, I guess, but. You guys, if you remember, I think Rika on several occasions tried to change certain events, even like during the first, the first and second arcs in which she convinced Keiichi to do something different than what he did in the previous arcs.
Oh, and I also thought of this too, like, because Sadako saw her memories, she would know how those events played out. So if Rika would try to change something, she would probably catch on to it and try to counteract it somehow, is what I'm guessing happened.
Yeah.
Because Rika might have actually been successful in her attempts to change things if Sadako was probably sabotaging that, is what I think.
Yeah. I mean, that's what she's pretty much been doing, like, throughout the entirety of GOU so far, so... but it seems like we are, from what it looks like, it is going to be under Sadako's perspective of what she's been doing in all the previous arcs we've seen.
Yeah, that's what I think is going to happen in the coming episodes, if it is true that this is going to be 30 episodes, which I'm starting to believe it will be.
Yeah, I mean, it literally took me by surprise when I heard about this. I mean, I mean, I don't mind if, like, they extended it a bit long, but some part of me feels like that, them reliving everything that Sadako has done previously is I don't know, it feels a bit unnecessary, and I feel like
well, like I said, I kind of think they should condense the events, because we already know a lot of what already happened, so all they need to show is the stuff that Sadako did to, what part Sadako played, and kind of explain further what exactly happened.
I mean, we'll have to see, like, within, like, probably way beyond up to episode 24, maybe 25, to see whether or not, if it's true, if they're gonna really take this up to at least 30 episodes, assuming if that's where they're going.
Well, if we get to the next episode, if next week the next episode comes out and there is no end, proper end to the series, then we know for sure that this is going to be more than 24 episodes. But yeah, I don't really have too much else to say about it. It's the episode took me by surprise, because I was not expecting things to go this direction, especially with how the last episode ended. It seemed like it was setting up this, like, final battle between Rika and Sadako, so it kind of would make sense if this would be the episode that was kind of like the climax, but that's not what this was. So like I said, it took me by surprise. But yeah, other than that, I don't really have too much else to say about it. I don't know if you have anything else to say.
No, I mean, this, like you said, it took us both by surprise. I mean, we literally thought that, based on how the last episode ended, that it would lead us back into the climax confrontation from both Rika and Sadako, but that's still literally going to leave us hanging for maybe possibly another several weeks now.
So that all being said, until next Thursday, we will see you all next time.